It started like any other weekend, with Jake packing his bags for a family trip to Lakeview, talking about fishing and fresh air, and turning off his phone like he always does when he wants to disconnect from the world and find peace in the water and silence of nature. And I thought that was that, until my phone lit up 3 hours after he left with a message that made me sit up straight. It was from his mom, not unusual at first, since she was always polite and kind, sending greetings now and then whenever I came over for dinner or helped Jake move his gear. But this message was different. This one said, "Are you free tonight? I could use some company." My heart stuttered, because there was no reason for her to be reaching out like that. Not unless something was wrong or something was very right, and I stared at the screen for far too long before typing, "Sure everything okay?" and hitting send. With a thumb that suddenly felt too heavy, she replied instantly, "Yes, just a little quiet around here." And I remembered how Jake once said his mum hated silence, how she filled it with music, or people, or conversation. And maybe she just wanted someone to fill that space. And maybe I was just reading too much into a simple offer. But when I arrived at the house, something was different. The lights were dim, and the hallway smelled of her perfume, that soft floral scent that always seemed to hang in the air whenever she brushed past. And she opened the door in something I never thought I'd see. Her wear a silk robe that shimmered like water around her, and a look in her eyes that wasn't quite maternal. I stepped in, and she closed the door behind me, slow as if sealing something. She asked if I wanted wine, and I said yes, because my voice wouldn't let me say no. And when she poured it, her fingers brushed mine and lingered longer than they needed to. And I felt the shift, like the ground beneath my feet no longer followed the rules of gravity. We sat on the couch, and the space between us was electric pulsing charged, and she asked if I remembered the time I stayed over, when the storm knocked out power, and I said I did, and she laughed soft and low, and said she remembered how I looked in the candlelight, how grown I had seemed. For a boy of 19, that was years ago, but the way she said it made the years vanish, and we weren't talking like mother of my best friend, and me, we were talking like two people caught in a pause before something irreversible. And then she touched my hand again, and this time she didn't let go. The wine glass slipped from her hand onto the carpet, but neither of us moved to pick it up, because something had already broken, something had already spilled, and it wasn't the drink. Her fingers laced into mine and pulled, and I followed, because I wasn't thinking anymore, just moving, just feeling, just letting the warmth of her skin guide me through a moment that burned and twisted and felt both forbidden and fated. The hallway we walked down was the same one I had sprinted through as a kid chased by Jake, laughing, yelling, and now I was being led through it by his mother, whose steps were slow, deliberate, quiet, like a secret being carried. Her room smelled like lavender, and something deeper, something intimate, and the moment she turned to face me, I saw it clearly. There was no going back. She touched my face gently, like she had every right to memorize it, and I let her. And when she kissed me, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't reckless. It was slow, certain, and everything inside me shattered and rebuilt around that kiss. We said nothing because words were too sharp and reality too heavy. And when our bodies met, it was with the weight of years of glances, of quiet respect, of things unsaid, now given voice through touch time, folded in on itself. And I didn't know how long we were there, only that I knew every inch of her, like I had dreamed it and feared it and wanted it. And she called my name in a way that made me forget anyone else had ever spoken it. When we lay, tangled in silence, afterward, she whispered, "I wasn't supposed to do this, but I wanted to, And I said I wasn't supposed to want this either. But I did, and we both knew we couldn't stay in that moment forever. Morning light crept in, and with it came the sound of a car pulling up outside. Jake was home early. She sat up, and I followed her lead. Dressing in silence, heart-pounding ears ringing as we heard the door open, and his voice calling out, "Mom, you here?" She looked at me one last time, eyes filled with something like regret, something like pride, and whispered, "Go out the back," and I did without a word, slipping through the yard I'd played in for years, now marked by a memory that would never leave me. And I knew from that day forward that I had crossed into something I could never explain, never confess, never forget. She sent an invitation and I accepted, and nothing will ever be the same.